welcome to the program, Soni Irabor Live. And yes, we're here live. And it's been a few weeks with all the political, campaigns and going around and all of that. You didn't have the opportunity of seeing us live. Well, fair enough. It was understandable. So we're glad to be back. And again, there's something I want to dwell on today. Integrity. I have an integrity driver. But first, before we meet him, let's go on the prologue trail and talk some philosophy, and then we'll meet our guests. Welcome to the program.
Creation, the human species has always shown tremendous ability to defy the status quo in achieving outstanding feats. Man's dynamism has continued to change the face of history and society. The maxim that the only constant factor in life is change aptly describes the status of man. There is a stigmatization in the society that those born without a silver spoon will probably grow up doing menial jobs for the rest of their lives. However, over time, we have seen the foolish things confounding the wise. Achieving success is a challenge before every man, no matter the manner of birth or place of birth. The challenge is either emboldened or weakened by the social-economic milieu in the society. While some have risen up to the challenge, some do allow it to weigh them down. Indeed, some see life's challenges as the tonic they need to accomplish their set objectives. Others see it as the desired excuses explaining their failure. The seriousness of the challenge could be determined by some factors prevalent at birth. Those born without a silver spoon begin the battle of emancipation from a tender age because they are brought up in hardship. In this regard, there are those who rise to the level of just taking care of basic daily needs, while on the other hand, there are the daring ones that rise beyond the conventional to prosperity. These are people who rose from zero to hero. They were never born into wealth. It was not thrust on them, but gotten through a dint of hard work. They are part of the few who still cherish the dignity of labor. And in the long, tedious road to success, their character became molded on sound principles. They garner experiences in almost all of life's subject matter, thereby becoming human encyclopedias. Today on Soni Irabor Live, we present one in like manner. Born into a polygamous home, fell by the wayside from a seminary, became a beggar, but today holds a doctorate degree. On the program, he bears his mind on his background, the state of the nation, international politics, the war in Iraq, and even lifestyles. He is Dr. Joseph Dorgu of the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas, NLNG. Welcome to another thrilling encounter on Soni Irabor Live.
Well, you heard, it was a bit of philosophy, I should say, but we wanted to go down memory lane, down reality lane, to see what humanity sometimes does to itself. You saw those kids there? Well, they were not directly referred to, but I'll tell you, whatever was said there means a lot as well to them and for them, because out of those kids, that were looking for things and means of livelihood, there could be a future president of Nigeria. Nobody knows tomorrow, but that is life. I have in the studio, as you heard, Dr. Joseph Dorgu. Now, our reference to him today is because he's here in his individual capacity, and it took me a long time convincing him to come. So he's not representing anybody, he's representing himself and philosophy of life. We call him the integrity driver. Dr. Dorgu.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome to the video.
Nice to meet you. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that was just going into philosophy.
Yeah.
Let's come to reality of life. Tell us about yourself, your beginnings.
Yeah.
Let's reiterate that a bit.
Yeah. Soni, well, thanks a lot that you battled to get me onto this program. And I have to review my background, essentially in the capacity of being a Nigerian and nothing else. I may dabble into my experiences overseas, as the case may be, essentially to encourage Nigerians to recognize the fact that there are no boundaries to their potential.
Yes.
But basically, I started in a polygamous home. My father had 3 wives. It got to a stage in which it dawned on me that I couldn't go to college. But I recognized earlier in life that I was a very lazy person. And the only strength I had was probably to actualize intellectually. So I then decided at that very early age that I had to go to school and recognize one simple fact that Nigerians are very generous. So I went to Dr. and Mrs. Stevenson's. I went to a DPO, a police commissioner. I went to another family, and I told them that I wanted to go to college, and I needed an opportunity. And it's incredible that these people stood up, took responsibility. The crucial element here is taking responsibility. These people took responsibility, ensured that I went to college and passed out very easily. And again, the key element for me wanting to go to college was because I was reductionist. I made the simple analysis at a very early age that academics was the simplest thing you can do. You had no responsibility. All you had to do was to read a textbook written by somebody else, scored 40 or 50% or 60%, and that was it. You had passed out of college. And then you moved on to university. Again, based on a coursework system, all you had to do was to score 40, 50, 60%, and you had cracked it. But unfortunately, I wasn't that privileged to score 40, 50%. There were times I scored 0%.
You can't be serious.
Yeah. But the idea of scoring 0% was a motivation.
Yeah.
Any result you get in life, if the result of an effort is 0%, then that 0% tantamounts to 100%. It has to be the result of an effort. But if you sit down and don't take responsibility and you don't make an effort, then you score 0%, then that to me is failure.
Before we go further into how you moved higher, let's quickly dwell on this a bit. The education system today, the problem of today started many yesterdays before. But today what we're seeing is that you have many 0 recordings, you have many 40% recordings. Even those who have 80% recordings have no means of moving on. So how do you analyze today's yesterday that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think I can stratify between what is happening today.
You can clean your face, no sweat at all. Yes.
About what is happening today and what happened in the past. I think that we have moved on. Society has expanded. Society has developed. But the infrastructure has not been sufficient to cater for the products we have from universities. And infrastructure doesn't have to come from government. Government is brazenly poor. The way government services generate revenue is via taxes.
We don't pay taxes, is that what you mean?
Yeah, most of us don't pay taxes. Most of us, rather than pay our telephone bills or electricity bills, for example, we're prepared to shortchange the system, to undercut the system.
So what's wrong? What causes that?
The issue is in the system. There is a fundamental principle in integrity or in failure analysis, which I have driven all my life overseas. And it says, if Professor Irabor and Dr. Dorgu can shortchange a system, then it is not the fault of Professor Irabor or Dr. Dorgu. It is the fault of the system, because the checks and balances have not been installed to cater for this discussion.
Who pilots the system?
The system as it's constituted now, previously it was a military one where it was dictatorial, it was dictatorship. You could meet somebody and give him a punch and get away with it. But in a presidential system that predicates on the rule of law, you cannot do that. What you need is a leadership, a collective leadership. The presidency, the Senate, the Congress, the Chief Justice, the press itself, people like you, have a role to play in this critical crusade to ensure that the mechanisms are installed in place for the system to evolve.
Okay, we're going to come to that later, but I'm going to now go back to the other side of it, which is you were telling us about your background, and you got to the stage where you were analyzing your percentage ratios and all of that. You know, while I'm talking, I'd like you to just wipe your face a bit more,
okay.
You know, so that if I see, as you talked, I looked at my life when I was young. Okay, I probably didn't go through it the way you did, you know, but in school bits, I found myself saying, hey, wait a minute, must I read this, all of these before I can get this grade? And the question was, I mean, that was the question. The answer was, you don't read it, you get left behind. Even when I try to read it, there are distractions. The process of growing up, peer pressure and all of that. What was your personal experience like?
My personal experience was to evolve a strategy, a very simple strategy, even up to the doctoral level. Once you go too much into any subject, you get lost in the process. Mm-hmm. The first thing I did for biology, for example, was to go to the clinic and look at a model, human model. I could see the heart, the stomach, the hands, all the entire anatomy. And from there, I could link that anatomy to physiology, the functionality. A lot of the things I learned were things I tried to identify with myself so that I could carry them along. There was no conceivable way I could read everything. And I learned this from a colleague. I'm surprised. I really don't know where this guy is today. His name is Lucky Alui. We all battled to beat him in class. He was very good. He told me about this strategy. Don't waste your time reading everything. The world is about sharing. It's about sharing things. You have to have a strategy that you share, you distribute. Even in management today, you can't do everything.
I'm overwhelmed. It's okay. I wish that Aliu, that's what it's called.
Yeah, Lucky Aliu.
Lucky Aliu. I hope you're lucky enough to watch this program so that you can find your long-lost friend. And secondly, I hope the students are watching this program, especially those of you who are under pressure trying to learn those, you know, revise your subjects and get used to how to tackle those difficult questions. This could be another strategy. Yeah. But then, it worked always for you?
It did work all the time for me because I always...
What you read, though?
Yeah, I did read.
Okay.
I did read a lot, but if you take my research, I had to read over 1,000 papers to attain a doctoral level. How could I have gone into the nuts and bolts of this subject? There were subjects you had to deal with superficially. You read the synopsis, you read the summary, and then you read the conclusions. And from there, you could come to the overall mechanism of a process. You don't have to go into the nuts and bolts. It's typical executive summary. If you were writing an executive summary to your boss or to the president, what do? You summarize. The president is distracted, your boss is so distracted, he has a lot of things to deal with. So he deals with the summary. But that summary has to be rich enough as to contain the very salient and very vital detail for him to function with.
Dr. Dorgu, you've come a long way. And we've seen the growing up years. What were the challenges in those formative years that became a bit difficult to saddle?
Yeah. I think this point is very, very valid. The term you have used is very crucial. The word you have used is very crucial. challenge. A lot of people in life see things as a problem. A problem invariably means that you hit yourself against the wall and there is no way out. A challenge invariably means something you can navigate around, something you can evolve a strategy to navigate around. And for me, because I am littered with plans, all my life is about plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. It's almost impossible for me to hit my head against the wall.
Before you go further, when did you adopt this plan A, B, C, D theory?
Yeah.
At what age?
From childhood.
Are you serious?
Yeah, let me explain this.
Okay, go ahead.
It did happen before I decided to go begging to go to college, that my father was relocating to the village. And we were made to carry a bed for about 3 to 5 kilometers. And I carried a bed with my younger brother. His name is Joseph Dorgu. He must be somewhere now. I hope he's watching. And when we carried this, we were so lazy. But you had people you called agberos. They were very strong. These were professional. They could move around. And I called my brother George and I said, look, you see, we have to go to school because we're very lazy. Can you imagine when we grow up, yes, to be made to carry this? It is out of that realization that I decided that I had to be littered with plans in my life. And I faced no challenge.
So you adopt a plan, and what happens if the plan doesn't work?
Then there is a plan B. I activate plan B.
What if B doesn't work?
I activate a plan C.
If C doesn't work?
Then I go to plan D. You're trying to entrap me.
Yes. What happens at D?
At D, I go to plan C. Back again to plan C.
Oh, so you now juggle that?
Yeah, because all the thing you do...
It's got to work, that's what you say?
Yeah, it's got to work. As you're moving along, you're reviewing...
You're not a give-upper?
No, I don't give up. You're reviewing the process all the time. There is a feedback loop. So plan A doesn't work, I go to plan B. Why hasn't plan A worked? Yeah. I'm challenging myself while going forward. And ultimately, there must have been a gap in my approach in plan A that has made it not to work. And so I can go and close that gap.
Supposing it's not your fault, supposing it's some short circuit somewhere, some deliberate attempt to block your efforts.
Yeah. There is a fundamental principle which I operate in life. Everything you do in life that is that you are not in near control or absolute control is none of your business. That's where you abdicate responsibility. For people who are superstitious, they go to their God and abdicate responsibility. There are people who...
Are you superstitious?
I am a cocktail of superstition and reality.
Can you expatiate on that?
Yeah, because I started in the seminary, also I attended the seminary, so the concept of God is in me. But also, in another religion, it may well say that maybe there is no God, for example. Or in one religion, it says, a snake is a savior. In another religion, it says a snake is a serpent. You see, because we're talking about one system, then it means that both concepts are compatible. They're not contradictory. Because if a snake has saved you and a snake has killed somebody else, one man's meat is another man's poison. And this is captured also in the Chinese concept.
You are confusing my psyche, for goodness sake. What are you trying to say here?
Basically, what I'm trying to say, I'm taking a Chinese position, which says that there is one graphic represents two scenarios. The Chinese have a single graphic that represents danger, and that same graphic represents opportunity. So when it's a danger for you, it's an opportunity for somebody else.
Well, Soni Irabor Live, I'm feeling cool with myself, I should say, and we'll be right back after the break, and we're going to another realm altogether. This is an unusual man. He's going to let out a lot more. And I'll tell you how we met, through the internet. Well, you never can tell. That's why this program is what it is. We'll be back.
Soni Irabor Live, back soon.
Trust.
Trust.
Trust. Förtroende.
Convoy. Trust.
Dimtui.
Databe.
Yakin.
Tiwala.
Sanyanay.
Viswase.
Confianza. Shinle.
Fiducia.
Bisalam.
Tanikay.
Devi
day when we can fully trust each other. There will be peace on Earth.
Welcome back.
Well, somebody said the other day that, you see, on the day we can trust one another, there'll be peace on earth. And he said, you know that can never happen. You can never trust the other person. I said, well, you can make an effort to trust by giving the benefit of the doubt. The first move is, I offend you, or you complain that I offend you, I apologize to you. Or I deny, you give me the benefit of the doubt. And then we move on. We begin to compromise, reason, and there'll be less political violence. There'll be less need to be do-or-die power holder. You know what I mean. But anyway, we're talking real philosophy here because I have a fine gentleman who's teaching me something new about life. I don't know how it's reaching you, but let us look at the Nigerian, the pride of being a Nigerian, and then we'll connect it with the Nigerian factor. You're a Nigerian. You said it from the beginning. You don't even sound Nigerian. Neither does it seem like you were trained here in Nigeria. And what kind of a Nigerian are you then?
I am a full-blooded Nigerian, basically. I am a Nigerian with no boundaries. I do not believe in boundaries. I have a completely different philosophy about being Nigerian. But I think that the greatest pride of anybody on earth, I take that position, even overseas, is to be a Nigerian. I meet expatriates who tell me how good Nigerians are. I meet expatriates who tell me how arrogant Nigerians are. I meet expatriates who tell me that you can rely on a Nigerian. And I meet expatriates who say you can't rely on a Nigerian. But these are no contradictions. They are basically no contradictions. They are saying one and the same thing. But you can never be anything outside being a Nigerian. That's the way I feel. That's the way I carry myself locally and internationally. And I've been very successful at doing this.
So do you find yourself accepting the norm of hiding under the umbrella of the Nigerian factor?
The Nigerian factor is something that is misplaced. The term Nigerian factor or the phrase Nigerian factor, it is misplaced.
Like all protocols observed.
Like all protocols observed, yeah.
Excuse me, yes, go ahead.
The Nigerian factor is global. There is the American factor. There is the English factor. There is the French factor. It's global. All cultures, all human beings are intrinsically and fundamentally corrupt.
Okay.
Because the tendency is to be corrupt. When a president of a nation like America says, for example, I want to decrease your taxes, that's because every person, any working class individual doesn't like paying tax. So inbuilt in him is the resistance to do something. He wants to do something that favors him. So that's an element, a micro element, a micro corruption. So when a president tries to bribe you by saying, vote for me, I will decrease your taxes, that's corruption, basically. So it's global. The difference between probably our culture and most of the civilized cultures is the lack of the rule of law, or the perception of the lack of rule of law. Once you have the rule of law, everyone is accountable to the law. All the checks and balances are there. Then, and the implementation is transparent. Then the Nigerian factor, the so-called Nigerian factor that is global, will evaporate.
Whose fault is it that we have no respect for the rule of law?
Fault basically is a state. So it's a state of the nation. But every nation has to be driven by leadership. In a military system, I remember during the Buhari-Diabon era, I came from overseas and we were all standing on the queue. Yeah. But that was a dictatorship.
So which means they were forced to do it.
People were forced to do it.
Wasn't a voluntary thing?
Yeah. But
was there a fault in that?
Yeah, there was a fault in that because you don't force people. The law, the rule of law demands that everyone is accountable. What does that mean? If you sit down at home watching television and you find ex-President Clinton being bullied, being humiliated by lawyers, and he's humble, he's responding to them. If you find that, then as an American, you'll say to yourself, if the most powerful man in my nation is subject to the law, then who am I not to obey the law? If you watch Nelson Mandela in his divorce proceedings, being humiliated by young lawyers, he could have sent his own lawyers. He didn't have to be out there. But he was sending a message to the South African. The message was pretty basic. If I, as Nelson Mandela, your president, can be subject to the law, then who are you not to be subject to the law? If Justice Oputa, for example, requires that somebody shall appear to his panel and the individual doesn't, then that's an abuse of the rule of law. That's an exploitation. And he has a duty to resign his portfolio rather than carry on with the process. So it is the leadership, a political leadership, not the people, because the law is basic. If more than two people can be corrupt, then it is not the fault of the people. It is the fault of the system. The checks and balances and the functionalities and implementations are not sound enough.
At the risk of getting carried away again, when you carry me along like this, sometimes I ask myself, the man in Ajegunle watching this program, and they watch a lot, they are also saying, not true they talk, but waiting happen that if this leader breaks the so-called rule of law, nothing is done to him. Nothing is done to him.
That's basically the philosophy. Nothing is done to him, so nothing is done to anybody.
So it just continues like that?
It just continues, but it wouldn't continue. The reason this will not continue...
What are the... Yes, okay, please give the reason, please.
The reason this will not continue is essentially because it begets or it's bound to provoke instability. Let me explain that very simply.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah. Overseer experience. You have a janitor working for you, and you treat the janitor very badly. You have everything in your house. You have a Rado watch, you have all the money, you have all the jewelry like my wife. And this guy is being humiliated. What does he do? All he does is to go out and talk to some of his criminal friends, and they come and share part of what you have. So once you recognize that if you do not crystallize conditions that are favorable for stability, that you yourself will be insecure, then you know that you have an obligation.
Please break that down into layman's language. You just said something that froze me. If I am rude to a janitor,
yes,
the janitor has a reason to hate me.
Yeah.
And so connive with an outsider,
yes,
to inflict harm or unpleasantness on me. Yeah. That's what you mean?
That's basically what I mean. And worst case,
does that happen here?
It must be happening here, because otherwise why will you have assassinations? Soni Irabor, Joseph Dorgu have no basis to pay anyone money to kill another person. Only if you have gotten money illegally, if it's an ill-gotten good, and you feel threatened, your motivation for going into politics is to enrich yourself. I do a survey all the time. I walk into the market and I say to the people, what is your problem with voting for the nation? They say very clearly, the motivation of politicians is to move in and enrich themselves, and there is no need to vote. I go to the young graduates. The same thing. There is a widespread apathy. I strongly believe that with a president that has nothing to lose, this must be his primary objective. Most people say, we don't want food. Because we go to the village, we'll have food. We don't want lights. Because we'll have light, we can use candles. We don't need roads. Some people argue, most of the people that feel the impacts of the socio-economic structure say we don't need all this. But if the president can ensure, through his leadership, collective leadership, that the rule of law is entrenched, is seen to be functional, then this country will now move forward. Because all the wealth that is concentrated at the top will cascade down and benefit the entire nation.
Did you miss Soni Irabor live? Well, you have 2 days in between sometimes. You know, Tuesday afternoon, Repeat Wednesday, very, very deep into the night at 3 in the morning. Friday, 2:30, afternoon as well. And repeat 11 p.m. as well, that same day. If you miss Soni Irabor Live, you're missing a lot, I tell you. Because when people like this come on the program, you got stuff, real stuff. And I'm going to ask for callers now to come in and say what they have to say, especially from what they've heard so far, and ask questions. But question from me to you. We've been registering national ID card. We've gone through the voters exercise. And now we're preparing come April 12th and 19th to vote. Are you going to vote?
Yes, I am going to vote. I'm going to vote not necessarily because I feel that it will make a significant difference in the body politic of this nation. At the present time, I have sympathy for the existing leadership, so I'm going to vote because of that. But the thing...
Can you say why? Because
why?
You've just done an advertisement.
Yes. Yeah. The reason I say why is because the ability to drive this nation must predicate on intelligence. Intelligence for me is the ability to navigate around complexities. It is based on needs and wants. It is digital, it is analog, it is consciousness, it is knowledge. I see this president, I remember I was overseas when he was first elected. I had never seen a leadership that will say, well, all those who voted for me have lost their money. That was how I got seduced by this. And the first step was the anti-graft bill that is being debated and being pushed around. So I see the president initially as somebody without a constituency. His constituency is the nation. But when I listen to most of the other leaders, they have special interests.
You've been following the debate?
Yes, I've been following the debate, yeah. They have special interests. One guy comes and says, as soon as I'm president, every Nigerian will be employed. That's a naive approach in politics. No nation in the world has everyone employed. Another guy says, well, as soon as I'm president, I will institute studies. We have problems on the ground to address. It's not an academic environment to start setting up institutes to study Nigerian problems. You can go to the market and find out what the problems of this nation is all about. Somebody comes and says, well, it's God that will solve this problem. No, God doesn't play those kind of roles.
God must be doing overtime in
Yeah, he must be doing. Yeah, God has other responsibilities. In short, even if the Bible says if you inject some effort, you get some result. You can't wait for God to come and resolve. The issues we have are on the ground. And only a leadership, I see a continuous leadership that will be able to drive this. And that's the rule of law.
There are accusations that you know, the issues on grounds have not been properly addressed enough.
There is only one issue on the ground, and I continue to maintain that.
What's that?
It is the rule of law.
We got a caller. C'est ici la Soni Irabor Live à la Lagos, à la Gbado. Hello. That's my French.
Hello.
How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I have a question
For that gentleman is Dr. Joseph Dorgu, your friend, I believe.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the rule of law that Dr. Joseph is talking about. How long are we going to continue this? Is it going to continue, or there is any remedy that we can suggest to the government of this country?
Good question.
To rectify this problem, because we cannot continue like this. We cannot commit an election in our society.
Good question.
We need to tell this problem. Or how can we control this problem?
Thank you.
Now, that is one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're talking about these elections that we are voting. That we know our vote cannot make any impact. We know Nigerian president. It's obvious. We don't need to deceive ourselves. No opposition. How long are we going to continue to that? It's obvious. The world knows. They are seeing us. They are looking at all over the world. That Nigeria is not conducting elections. We are only just installing the same people of government. How long are we going to continue to deceive us? They're reaching our pocket. Most politicians, let's just put it that way, is still going to continue forever. When we have a lot of intellectuals like you did in the war, what impact are we making to this government to even reach out? Even the media, not for the media to be one-sided. Let me just give you a question to that.
Okay. was going to say you're overloading, but it's fine. Thank you very much. Good questions, I must say.
Yeah, very
He's
sound.
a concerned person.
He's a concerned person. He's a true Nigerian. And I guess we're related from the way he sounds, because I share the same passion,
Yeah.
the rule of law.
Okay.
I say the rule of law will be put in place in this country for two reasons, two basic reasons. This president has nothing more to prove. In the annals of this country, this may be the last time we will have a president that has been in office for 3 consecutive times. So what he has is a legacy. He must be driven by a need to establish a legacy, to leave something behind.
Okay.
And that will drive him. I listened to him the other day about the anti-graft law, what the Senate has done. He laughed and he said, nothing. It's got to be the way it is. So the president will have to inject additional effort to drive this to the wire, because that will be his legacy. Roads and the rest will perish, but the rule of law will never perish. The rule of law is a lubricant. It's a lubricant that binds all society. Once you do not have it, a society fractures. That's one way. Then the second way that will come about, it will be driven by insecurity. Because you do not expect the police to secure you. If you have stolen the wealth of this country and you ask a policeman to be your bodyguard, he sees all the things you have. He has 5 children. They can't go to school. That is where your insecurity will come from.
He sees your level of indiscretion.
Indiscretion, yes.
Ostentatious
yes.
display.
Yeah. There's no regard for this individual.
And then he must protect your life.
And then he must protect your life. He must be a fool to do that. He shouldn't. And that will also arise from your driver, from the people around you. Once you recognize that your security predicates on the security of the rest of the nation, then the House, Congress, Senate, the judiciary, the presidency, and journalism, the fourth realm, investigative journalism, you guys will clean up this nation. I see a great future for this country.
He talked about elections and all of that, but there's a caller waiting, so I don't know whether...
The next question, there is another question
quickly,
which talks about elections, yes? Now, and you talked about registration.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it may not happen today or tomorrow, but when I heard about the registration ID for the nation, I went in pretty fast. Because for me, this is futuristic. I expect to see a day where I am sitting with you here rationalizing a national issue, and a police officer walks up to me and says, Dr. Joseph Dorgu, you committed a crime somewhere, forensics, from your fingerprint. I expect to see in future where we will be voting via fingerprint and not via ballot boxes that can be manipulated.
Yes, sir.
When we attain that level, then this nation will get the leadership it wants, if it is not dissatisfied with another leadership.
I think I'm in heaven here. I got another caller. Hello. How are you? Hi.
I'm jealous.
Thank you. I think this is the man you should love, not me. Thank you. Yes.
I enjoy it so much. Are you going to charge?
No, I am an integrity driver. What I mean is I look at things the way they should happen.
But I'm highly impressed with this program today. I'm highly impressed. And I don't know if you have, maybe we have the kind of good people in this system, maybe this system that should not be. Because I don't know what to say. But I'm happy to hear from you today. I put my mind because, in fact, I was frustrated, you know, because for what I...
So you have hope now, right?
Yeah, now I'm okay. I'm just okay now. When I heard all what this man was saying, this afternoon, I'm highly impressed that
So,
people with this country.
can I ask you a question?
Okay, thank you.
Does that mean that when you are in traffic, you'll be able to wait your turn?
Yeah.
Does that also mean...
There's nothing I personally discipline myself, but I don't see that I find myself in a disciplined society. So this thing brought me much. You can imagine in the program yesterday, let me remember, so it's a Shaka, this State of Africa.
Yeah, Voice of America.
Was moving into one of the presidential candidates. Why are we in the position to be? Just for example, if they are inside or inside of the country, then what we are going to do today, you can see, we have a device for it.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got to take a message before you react to this, because we do have a commercial message, which is very... God bless you, my brother.
Thanks.
So we'll take a message and we'll be right back.
Soni Irabor live back soon.
Trust.
Trust.
Trust. Förtroende.
Convoy. Trust.
Tumtui.
Database.
Yakin.
Tiwala.
Sunyanay.
Viswase.
Confianza. Shinle.
Fiducia.
Bizalam.
Syndicated.
Доверие. Trust.
On the day when we can fully trust each other, there will be peace on Earth.
Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back indeed. Something happened. Well, I understand there's a caller waiting, but I want to quickly allow my guests to, answer this question before we go to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. With regard to the last caller, I must say that I love him very much. I'm happy that he feels this way about this interview. He says he loves you, and I love you more. So
Thank you.
But
yeah,
he talked about hope.
Yeah.
And I think I share a slight difference with that position. I don't think we should live our lives based on hope. For me, hope is the result of material and intellectual poverty. What you do in life is expectation. Whatever you want in life, go for it. You can't lean on hope. Oh, tomorrow I'll be in the moon. No. If you want to go, yeah, you procrastinate. If you want to go to the moon, sit down and do an analysis. Look at the front-end loading aspect of it. What do I need to have in place? What is my scope? What do I plan to do? Do I have the resource to do it? And if you do not have the resource like myself, go begging. There are many people like me who've had our experiences who are willing to sacrifice. I have a wife that loves eating plantain and ice fish. So part of my money I can afford to share if people are desperate.
Plantain and ice fish.
Yeah, that's what she's driven by. And probably...
I like this.
Yeah. And probably the ice fish will have some micro maggots in it, I don't know. But that's what she's driven by. And she's foreign. But she's comfortable with this. So do not spend all your time on hope. Spend your time on expectation. That is, whatever action you take in life, there will be a reaction.
Okay, let me take this call and I'll ask you a question on the message that came out. 2 messages. Hello. Yes. How are you?
I'm fine.
Go ahead.
Please, I just want to contribute this to...
Go ahead.
With what Doctor said, I've been able to understand the fact that hope is not what we need in Nigeria, but to do things we know are proper in the right direction. You have been speaking for some time now, and I've been able to understand the fact that these are the kind of Nigerians we need to govern us. But my question for people like you is that you have ideas, you have solutions to problems, but all of you will stay at home and let the riffraff go into government. If we don't come out of our shell, before I go on, please, are you a civil servant?
No, sir. I'm not. I'm not privileged to share my portfolio at the present time. I work for the system, but not a civil servant.
Okay. I'm happy that you can come out and say the truth, despite the fact that you still work for the system and work for the state. You don't care if they want to terminate your, maybe your work with them or anything like that. You can still come out and say the truth. But the problem, as I was saying earlier, was that if people like you don't come out to change the course of this nation, this thing will continue, for God's sake. It will continue. Don't let them start saying this man, he has a good way and this thing. We all know that the bunch of people who have the government now, they are not the set of people that are supposed to be there. It's the honest truth. So when do people like you come out of their shell and take up the leadership of this country?
Question? Question?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think let me clarify a position about security. Security for myself and security for my position, based on the fact that I identify with the system I work. My daughter describes my future as being in the past.
I beg your pardon?
My daughter says that your future is in the past.
And what did you say to that?
Yeah, what that means, the moral of this is that you are not driven by the need to be secured. I spent 20 years overseas as a top consultant. So I'm not driven by wealth. If I want a shirt, I design it and I sew it myself. If I want a pair of trousers, I design and I sew.
So you don't bother with the texture of the shirt you're designing?
Yeah, because quality is subjective.
Ah, bon.
One man wants to go to a supermarket, so he uses a Rolls Royce to the supermarket. Another man wants to go to the supermarket, he uses a Volkswagen. Another guy wants to go to the supermarket, he uses a bicycle. So quality is subjective. It is a combination of aesthetics, how the thing looks, and the functionality. If a bicycle looks okay to you, and if the bicycle is functional, then that is quality.
Do you believe in trust?
All my life, based on the fact that I drive the integrity business, I operate on the premise of mutual distrust.
What does that mean?
What it means is that to trust is to abdicate responsibility.
What should I do then?
You create a forum in which you have defense mechanisms. That is, you play the game out. You sit down, somebody walks up to you and says, Professor Irabor, I need 10,000 naira as a loan. You don't operate on trust. You say to this guy, okay, you rationalize the issue yourself. What happens if I give 10,000 naira away and the money doesn't come back? Am I comfortable with this scenario? If the answer to you is yes, give the 10,000 naira away and stabilize yourself psychologically that this money will never come back. Because if it doesn't come back, it doesn't make a difference.
But if it does come back, fine.
If it does come back, fine. And most of the cases when it comes back, you find yourself unwilling to take it, keep it. But 9 out of 10 times, or 8 out of 10 times, it doesn't come back. But you have rationalized that scenario, so it makes no difference.
There's a caller. Hello.
Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, hi.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have 2 questions for Dr.
Dorgu.
It's Dorgu. Yeah. Hello?
Drop the volume of your TV set, please, so that your voice is not distorted.
Hello?
I'm hearing myself from your phone, so move away from your TV set. Hello, hi. Okay.
Is that Soni Irabor?
Yes, but Dr. Dorgu is...
No, okay.
This is me, this is me.
Yes, I'm seeing you. Yes,
Okay, all right, I'm talking...
Thank God I can get through. I confess this is my first time of listening to this program.
Okay.
It's in my first time of this for Dr. Dorgu.
Yep.
Now, I listened to him attentively when he was talking about this rule of law thing. And you find out that we the youth in the country, like you not even gotten opportunity of having land.
Okay.
Now, to my mind, I think this national identity card is to assist this country to at least have a real good rough estimate of what the population of this country is like. Now, when you have somebody that is having more than two, and a 15-year-old daughter of a big man somewhere is having an ID card, now tell me, how will we really know what's going on?
Thank
So
you.
I want a contribution to that. If this national identity card is a solution to our problem or not.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the question.
We have a little time left.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Ultimately, the national ID will be a solution to the problem. It doesn't really matter how many people go there to try and attempt to register. The system will ultimately be fine-tuned. I expect Nigeria may actualize. Nigeria may go nuclear, not in 5 years' time, not in 10 years' time, not in 15 years' time, but we have to have a beginning. So, the national registration, there is an element, a feature for your fingerprint. Ultimately, this system will be fine-tuned that when you go in for a second time, this illiterate database, the computer is basically illiterate. It will tell you, sorry, I have seen this finger thumbprint once.
I won't take it a second time.
I won't take it a second time.
Exactly.
So don't be worried. On the longer term, we will have a solution to this issue. Yeah, what was the earlier one?
Yeah, well, where were you when this was going on? And
yes. Okay, I just came back to Nigeria in 2001. I was overseas. I was comfortable. I was highly pregnant with funds. But then realized all of a sudden that, look, if I died in London or in America or in Australia or in Saudi Arabia or whatever, or in China, nobody will know that I made an impact. I saw it as an obligation to come back to the system and see what contributions I can make to this system. And my philosophy is not to go to government and take positions and want to drive this country. My contribution to this society is to bring the awareness to leadership that they have an obligation, because ultimately they have a legacy. They have their own children to live here. It doesn't matter if you send them overseas to the best of schools. They will still come back to this country. And what the leadership has to ensure is stability. If a society is unstable, then you cannot drive your beast or the V-boot or whatever along the streets.
That is a very pregnant note to conclude this program. And I challenge you out there too, because there's a lot you have to say to yourself. What's your role? How does the rule of law affect you? Whether you're the topmost person or the bottommost person, where do you fit in? Good question. Well, you have the email if you're a regular viewer of this program. And if you're not, you must have seen it on TV as we're concluding. I hope it will be put back there. And I just want to say a big thank you, Dr. Joseph Dorgu. You don't believe in trust, but you believe more in mutual distrust. That's a new one. Yes. And I must say, I have learned a lot being on this program.
But by mutual distrust, it means I can then trust you. If I suspect and then you go above board, then I say, yeah, this guy is an excellent guy.
So when it comes the second time,
then you give.
You don't look back.
Yeah.
So the basic foundation is first mutual distrust, and the rest.
And then you build on that.
Okay. Right. So don't forget that this program has a repeat. Today's being Friday. You have the repeat at 11 p.m. So don't forget to watch. And you will, if you missed out now, or if you joined towards the end of the program, you missed a lot. I tell you. Go back for 11 o'clock tonight, and you will see encyclopedia of philosophy at work. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And all Nigerians, I love you all.
Television.